Hello, everybody. To whoever's here, to whoever's just wandering in now. Where is it? I'm just still setting up. You guys know I'm slow at this, so we're all good. There we go. Hi, Moira. I am just setting up, waiting for people to wander on in. It's a nice day. Oh, let me just do that. There we go. Getting rid of the echoes. All the echoes. Okay. While we're waiting for people, remember I said about Atlantis that I had some books laying around and I wasn't sure where they were, so we just babbled and babbled and babbled. And yeah, if I'd have been able to find these first before talking about Atlantis, it would have, well, still would have been fun, but it would have been easier on me. So this one here is Atlantis and Other Lost Civilizations. So I think I'm going to keep this one nice and handy. Yeah, Mu and Lemuria, right? That picture, that's the picture I was hoping to find, because that picture is based on one of Plato's descriptions of what Atlantis looked like. And that one weird, it's called the Reichat structure in Southwest Africa. Well, not Southwest, up around the big chunk of Africa. There's a weird structure on the ground that kind of looks a little like that. So yeah, I could have done a much better job with Atlantis if I'd have found my books first, but we didn't know where they were. Yeah, Atlantis and spiritual values, 7 cities of gold. There's also, so I'm keeping this one handy because we're going to be looking up. There's other lost cities that we can talk about, which really, like, I think that sort of stuff is really, really fascinating. Today the topic is reincarnation. We are going to be talking about reincarnation. This one here, let me see. Yeah, Atlantean outposts. This one talks about the idea of where the Atlantean survivors were and what happened in those areas. Because Edgar Casey basically said that Egypt started off as an outpost for Atlantean survivors, right? And then this is just more of the same. More of the same. I can't remember. I think I got these like at some sort of a book sale when somebody was getting rid of them for like some bookstore or something that was closing out on them. And I got them. I know I got them cheap, but I found something else too. I'm drinking water today. We'll see how that goes. I forgot that I had this. Secret Societies and Hidden Histories, a chronological journey through. So this is called the Conspiracy Book. And basically, you can look up all sorts of historical. Some of it's weird. Some of it's not so weird. So I think for a lot of these, yeah, some of these are more interesting than others. But I'm definitely going to keep this one handy. This one's about the Temple of Solomon. So this is about this particular book. This particular book covers conspiracy. Well, conspiracies as the broader term for all of that stuff. Like this is a weird one. Conspiracy of equals. Some of them are historical. Some of them are little historical secret societies that came up. Like there's even. I just bumped into it. There's the Shriners, because they're related to the to the Masons. So this one I might be referring to for some more stuff too. But anyway, today's topic. I already spilled water on myself, so we're off to a good start. Yeah, it's conspiracy and basically it's like I just love like the trivia. This one here is called the Conspiracy Book. There, I'll put it up for you. The Conspiracy Book. I believe Lisa got that for me. So I'm not even sure where it came from. I'm drinking water, and apparently I'm having an issue with it because it's just dripping it everywhere. But anyway. So this one here, now this one here's got some, yeah. Oh, so this one here's got some stuff that may not be as fun, but it's also got stuff like the Pythagorean theorem. Is just a math, the Russian Revolution, the Order of the Templars, which is again related to the Masons. So some of this stuff, some of this stuff is, don't all things come from Amazon. I'm not sure where she got it from. So like, okay, the Decembrists, they were a secret society that were helping plan a revolution. That's all I remember without reading the whole thing, right? So some of these secret societies and conspiracies were just talking about things that really happened. Others are talking about things that, like the stonemasons, right? Like some of the conspiracies that they were involved with were real. Some of them were not. Some of them were far, what's the one conspiracy is that the stonemasons, not a conspiracy. There's people that believe that the stonemasons are a secret society that are in contact with UFOs, stuff like that. So anyway, that one was a pretty good book. There's another one. We're just going to pretend that wet spot's not there. There's another one that I've seen that there's a bunch of these types of books. Yeah, the Freemasons. I keep saying stonemasons, and I mean to say Freemasons. But anyway, today's topic is reincarnation, and I think reincarnation makes an interesting topic because, pardon me, any of the proof that we have proof, but it's not the kind of proof that you think. So the proof requires faith in some way. So I think it's a really interesting thing to talk about. So we're probably today going to focus on a lot on some of the different stories that are coming out, have come out, that have been recorded, that sort of thing. I mean, just a quick hands up. Who believes in reincarnation? Who believes one life and that's it? I believe in reincarnation. I believe that, I personally believe that it's like going to school, right? You don't go to one class one time and know everything there is to know about life. You just have to keep going back again and again and again, take different classes, learn different lessons until, but by the time you're either 18 and finishing high school or 22 and finishing university, you've put it together into a cohesive whole that will help you live a good life, right? That's what education is about. And I think reincarnation is the same thing. You're learning different lessons. You're going through different experiences. You're putting it all together so that once you reach that stage of spiritual enlightenment to move on to the next phase, whatever that phase may be, that you're ready for it. That's kind of a nutshell version of what Buddhists see reincarnation as. And, a billion people can't be wrong. So I don't know. Hello, Kendra. You're not late. We're just starting. We are just starting. I was just showing off some books that I stumbled across that I could have used, when we were talking about Atlantis and things like that. Stumbled across some of those and showing off this guy, which I stumbled across as well. So we might pick some topics that are in this book, like the one page. Like some of this stuff we don't really need. Some of this stuff really isn't gonna matter. Like some of the various secret societies and conspiracies that built up around getting populations through World War II aren't necessarily relevant. That's a different kind of thing, right? Anyway, so we are talking about reincarnation, and I believe in it. I don't necessarily know what I believe. Does that make sense? I'm open-minded to I'm open-minded to what are we supposed to be learning? Why are we reincarnating? Because like in the Bible, and you have to start somewhere, and reincarnation is strongly based on faith, life, how you live, being born, how you live your life, your death, and then what comes next. There's a huge religious thing for that. And in the Bible, two really important things in the Bible that have always caught my attention is that the first thing is that in Genesis, God says, I have made man in my image. Well, in my image. God does not have a physical body. God is not a physical being at all. God is just the great I am, right? There's a whole little arc about I am who I am, what I am. I'm so starting with the idea of reincarnation means that you have to start with a religious belief somewhere, somehow. Since we being in North America are largely Christian, we're going to start with that. And we're going to go there. And I'm going to just jump right into that, because from there, it's going to start to break it. Then we go down the rabbit holes, right? You guys know how I think you guys are starting to understand the twists and turns of my weird warped brain. Anyway, so we're going to start with, I've made man in my image. Well, God's image is a spiritual being, just a being of spirit. So it's like, how can we have a physical body doing this, doing that, and be a being of spirit? And see, now that's something I'm open to. We'll get to that. We'll swing back to that. We'll swing back to that probably later, because I was going to get into that sooner or later anyway. So this whole idea of we're made in God's image, and then we take this whole, okay, so you got to be this tall, you got to look like this, I don't think that's it at all. I think it's having a spirit, having a soul. The idea of having a soul that can exist outside, that it can exist before birth, after death. And I do think that that's kind of telling in terms of, I think that's telling in a whole lot of ways, because why would you make a pronouncement like that you've made somebody in your image, when your image, so basically I do think that is confirmation of a soul that lives on after death. Now, that's number one. And then number two is, and I always go back to this one, this is Matthew 17, verse 11 to 13. Jesus replied, "To be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things." Now, Elijah was a prophet. Elijah was an Old Testament prophet. And yes, sorry about the Bible hour. I know standardized religion isn't necessarily exciting for anybody. I don't even identify as a Christian. I grew up in it. We didn't really go to church a lot, but anyway, no, I just kind of, you just absorb what you grew up around. To be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. So Elijah is an Old Testament prophet that was supposed to come back and help restore Judaism, just fix everything into the standards of Jesus's time. To be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished, meaning treating him like crap. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands. Now he's predicting his own crucifixion. Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. This is not possible. This statement. Yeah. See. Yeah. Well, that's why I could have done. It wouldn't take me long. It wouldn't take me much to do a little bit of research and come up with some of the more Buddhist ideas. But most of us have got enough Christian background that I don't have to fill in. I don't have to fill in a ton of gaps the way I would if I was saying, well, the Hindus believe, and it's like, well, what do you mean? I don't have to. So basically. So Jesus. Now, don't forget in the. Hi, Michelle. So don't forget, Jesus in the New Testament. We have so many different versions of the same Bible. We have the Catholic version of the Bible, and I'm not sure which one that is. We have the King James. We have I don't even remember anymore. I'm not even going to try. I would be here all day trying to figure it out. But we've got like dozens of different, like the King James is very Shakespearean. We've got several different modern takes on it, and whatever. So every single Bible very much says that everything that Jesus says, this is important, every single word that Jesus is supposed to have said in the Bible that's been documented is the literal truth, because everything that's in the Old Testament, that is the literal word of God as spoken through his prophets. Everything in the New Testament that Jesus said, Jesus is the Son of God. So everything that Jesus said was taken as literal truth, unless Jesus specified he was telling you a story. Everything was literal truth. Jesus is saying this Jesus is recorded as having said this. He is recorded in multiple different versions of multiple different Bibles saying this. And the only way that this statement, I'm going to read it again. To be sure, Elijah comes and will restore all things. But I tell you, Elijah has already come and they did not recognize him, but have done to him everything they wished. In the same way, the Son of Man is going to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was talking to them about John the Baptist. The only way for that statement to have this Jesus stamp of approval, seal of absolute truth is for reincarnation to be real. So at the time that Jesus made this statement, at the time that all this stuff was recorded, it was commonly believed that you could be born, live, die, and be born again and this is how Jesus came in onto the scene. He was born of a virgin. He started as a baby, right? But he is the Son of God. So for me personally, this whole idea that God said, let us make man in our image, it's like, how does a being with no physical form do that? By creating the soul. How does Elijah come again without there being reincarnation? And I think I think, and like I said, this is like what I think. I want to know what you guys think. I do want to know what you guys think. I want to, talk, or talk among yourselves. That's fine. Okay. So, and like I said, don't be afraid to treat this like a big old chat room for anybody who's in the mood. I'm fine with that. Okay. So basically, as far as I'm concerned, the Bible itself seems to be full of contradictions, and in some ways it is, and in other ways, the reason why this whole Elijah's come again, that's reincarnation doesn't exist, so then it's a contradiction. It's like, well, no, it's not a contradiction if reincarnation exists. Hi, Autumn Rose. So according to the Bible, reincarnation exists, even if that's not what they want to call it. According to the Bible, the part of us that makes us a human being is the non-physical spiritual part of us, not the physical form that we are inhabiting. And if you are a non-physical spiritual form, then obviously it's entirely possible for you to inhabit a series of bodies. You come in, you inhabit the body. And there's the issue of these kind of conversations has always been the lack of proof, and any proof that exists. Okay, for me to believe, I can believe something without having to believe the whole spiel, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of highly spiritual elements in the Bible. I don't necessarily believe in the organized religion aspect of how that's all set up, but that's a whole different thing. But yeah, I've had several psychics tell me I had an ancient Mayan past life. Here's the thing. If reincarnation exists, we don't even have to, the earth has been around. We already had that talk. Modern humans, Homo sapien, were emerged around 300,000 years ago. In 300,000 years, even with 8 billion people on the planet, there's plenty of opportunity for everybody to have gotten a fucking turn or two. And where is it? Yeah, and that we could be living multiple lifetimes at once. Now, this is something else, and it's in the Bible. Time that time has no beginning. There's, in order for me to find something, I have to have at least a few words of the verse in my head to go, this is what I'm looking for. I get pretty good at finding stuff as long as I can let's pull out a piece of trivia. But there is a statement in the Bible. There's a couple of different statements in the Bible about, what I said before, I am, right? Not when am I, where am I, just I am. So there is a couple of statements in the Bible that basically it's like the spirit exists outside of time and space, and we can make of that what we will. I think it's entirely possible that if we are by nature, our spiritual form can ignore the limits of time and space, then you would logically assume that it's entirely possible that I could be living this existence here and I could also be living another existence there. Because in the spiritual realm, neither thing is there's no difference. So it's like, I'll do, yeah. Okay, it's like you go to school, right? Sorry, I'm trying to get myself comfortable, and I'm fidgeting today. So the thing is, so you're minding your own business. You're going to school. How many classes do you normally have? Okay. If each lifetime is a lesson that you need to learn, if each day at school is lessons for you to learn, but you're doing it in the course of eight to 10 different classes, depending on what you're doing and where you are, why can't your spiritual existence operate in the exact same way? Right? There's a saying, art imitates life. Right? So it's like, wait a second. If the spiritual plane has no sense of time. Now, I don't know. We've got no proof, but I don't see any reason why. I don't see any reason why a linear progression could be any more valid than just scattershot a bunch at a time. Yeah, multitasking. I don't see any reason why one has to be more true than the other. But that's a cool piece of trivia. I can't even say at the moment. That's a really, I think that's a really cool thought, and I think it's a very, very valid thought. I mean, and of course, in the absence of concrete proof, it's always going to be, oh, I'm happy to agree to disagree. I'm not. It's like both can be true. Both can be true. Like I said, like you go to school and do your school stuff, but then you've got your extracurriculars stacked on top, right? So both can be true at the same time. There's this thing in quantum physics about quantum entanglement, and there's this experiment that there's the double slit experiment, and it's a really funky experiment that they did. Let me see if I can find it. This kind of is that it? Come on. I would like to find one that makes sense. Has anybody heard of the double slit experiment? It's a quantum physics thing. Oh, come on. Basically, the reason why I realized I need to start doing a little bit of research here and there before I start things is because sometimes you find a bunch of stuff and then you go to bring it up and it's just not. It does, you see a graphic and you click it because you want to bring it up better, right? Oh, that's a video. And then when you bring it up, that's when you find out it's a video. That's when you. Is that one going to work? There we go. That one's it. Okay. This is a double slit experiment. Okay. Let me just do it. Oh my God. Let me click buttons. I wonder if our ancestral memories and the people they interacted with sometimes feels like our past lives. Oh, I think that's absolutely the case. There are certain things that we just do instinctively that it's like how can we have instinctive anything if we don't have ancestral memory? Okay, share that screen. There it is. Okay, let's share this. This is the double slit experiment. Now, so again, can we in our spiritual form experience literal linear time and non just everything everywhere all at once time, right? So in a double slit experiment, and this is a quantum physics experiment. So in the actual double slit experiment, what they did was they sent particles through two slots, right? Now the way these slots should be, if you have a flashlight and a piece of cardboard with two slots in it, then you're going to expect reasonably. There's a way, you're going to expect reasonably two slits of light to show up on the other side. Yeah. Okay. So there it is. So this is like, okay. So this one here, is it on the camera properly? Hey, it would help if I shared it. Okay. So this one here basically is, imagine these are tennis balls, right? So when you shoot tennis balls randomly at a wall with two slits cut in it, then what happens is the way that they should by default only be able to move in certain directions and create up to 5 actual slits at the end. That's going to be like if 2 of your pieces are coming through at the angle like this, then they bounce. They're going to go here. So this is what it should look like. This is what it realistically should look like. And that's the concept of linear time and whatever, right? And the reason why this double slit experiment was famous, because, okay, in our classical world, we expect this. So we put everything through the slits, and you should have two, okay? But what happens is that you end up with 5 because of the way that they act and react and interact with each other. Possibly things are bouncing off the edges of the slits and going in certain directions. But then what they did, now come on, where's the other one? Oh, the other one. Where's the other one? But what they found out is that some of the time, where is it? When you get down to the quantum level, what they're finding is, I haven't got the rest of it. Doesn't matter. We don't have to agonize about the rest of it. So basically what happens is, so this is what ends up happening. This is what should happen. There's 2 slits. There should be 2. There's everything that bounces on the edges should bounce backwards and not go through, right? And everything that makes it through should only make 2 sections. But what they're finding is 5 sections. There's an interference pattern of some kind, and they need to figure that out. But what's also happening is sometimes depending at, see, this is what's ending up happening. This is what's ending up happening, and they're really not sure how this is happening because they're sending particles through. Okay. People that are really, really interested in the metaphysical things revolving around particle physics are also finding that sometimes the pattern just comes through completely random, and even though there's something in the way, things are showing up outside of the expected pattern. Anyway, double slit experiment gets really weird really fast, and I'm not doing a very good job of explaining it, and I don't have to, I guess, but let me see. I really want to find that. There's one in particular that I'm looking. Oh, I might be able to find it. Give me 2 seconds. I see the baby. What's my puppy doing? Is that it? Nope. Okay. Our has a burp. Anyway, I am not going to do this justice, but basically the double slit experiment that was done on the double slit experiment that was done using quantum sized particles did not show those results, proving that how we measure our physical reality isn't necessarily what we think it is. I have got, if I have it, I'll find it real quick. I has another book, because quantum physics is basically like how does the smallest of the small things in our universe work? The reason why I find this really interesting is because it kind of proves, this is the book What the Bleep, and it goes with the video. The video shows a lot more, but of course that's a DVD, and no, it's not going to show it. It is not going to show it. If I have it, if it's here, it's here. If it's not here, it's not here. It is not here. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I'm allowed to have my one bad segue. So the thing is for me, why this makes it interesting. Yeah. What the bleep is good. So for me, what makes it interesting is that we now have a level of technology that lets us look at things and find out that they don't even do what we think they should do. Yeah, love the bleep. So the double slit experiment is like, okay, if you have two holes and you're shooting electrons through these holes, as it hits this hole, it should make a pattern, a circular pattern here. As it hits this hole, it should make a circuit. So it should be electrons going through two holes, making patterns here. And instead they're going, nope, we're going to make tons of patterns. And sometimes, depending on what's being observed and how it's being observed, sometimes they just come through as completely random with no pattern at all. It's like, okay, so there is more in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophies. That's from something Shakespeare. But anyway, this is kind of when you start getting into things like reincarnation that you really have to go on faith. This is where I can go look at something like reincarnation and go, but wait a second, is it logical? Is it logical that you get one life and your existence for the rest of eternity is based on, because don't forget, how long is a human life when measured against eternity? There's your life measured against all of eternity. I get the equivalent of a snap decision, and that will decide where I'm going to be for the rest of eternity. There is no logical sense. There is no logical sense for it. If you believe in an afterlife, and you believe in intelligent design, and intelligent design, that whatever form of spirituality makes sense to you, intelligent design, somehow, some guidance or direction. If you believe in any of this stuff, any of it, if you believe in any form of intelligent design whatsoever, whether that be God, quantum physics, anything in between, it makes absolutely no logical sense for us to get one and done. It makes no sense whatsoever. Because I'll tell you right now, I know what kind of a person I am. You make my life just a little bit more difficult, I'm going to make different decisions in my life that aren't necessarily going to be the stellar decision. Okay. Let's take a simple concept like shoplifting. And we're not gonna judge who, what, when, where, and why, whatever. If I was destitute, and the difference between eating and going hungry was whether or not I was willing to steal food, I'm going to steal, right? I'll take my chances. If I've got $1 million in the bank, of course I'm not going to steal. I don't need to, right? So that small thing. And yet, now don't forget, in the Bible, Jesus was crucified between two thieves. How do you feel about the different astral readings? Tropical side, True Vedic. It's a little confusing. I don't know much about that. That might be a good topic for the future, and we can learn about it together, because I'm also up for that. Hey, I don't know nothing about this shit. Let's look it up and make a decision right now. But anyway, back to logic. If an intelligent design based on no logic whatsoever is not intelligent at all. It's not. So intelligent design, you get one and done. You don't necessarily, where, who, what, when, where, and why you were born, the circumstances of your birth determine what your toolkit is. I'll mention South Node. I must have just slurred a word or something. I don't think I said South Node, but that's okay. Sometimes I say things. It's like, oh, did I say that? No. So the thing is that what you're looking at now, the concept of intelligent design, if I am going to intelligently design a universe, and don't forget, we're assuming that if we're dealing with some sort of spirituality, and like I said, let's just call it intelligent design, so we do not have to define who or what designed it, right? Then I'm going to put a little bit more logic into this than just one. Oh, okay. I'm not sure. I must have just been reading something. I may have just been reading it off of something. Oh, don't worry, Autumn Rose. My brain wanders constantly. You've been to these chats. We start off on one topic and end up somewhere completely different half the time. You should see it when I'm doing the sewing ones. Oh my God, I'm a squirrel. Okay, so we look at intelligent design. This really matters to the conversation of reincarnation. So basically, for me personally, intelligent design. So I'm gonna judge my life against the life of somebody who has had life very easy and never had to make a hard decision, has never been challenged. And I'm not begrudging that person having an easy life. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having an easy life, a life of leisure, a life of abundance. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely not. But the thing is that we all come at it from different circumstances, but we're judged equally on the results. It's like taking a person who is illiterate and a person with the full 12 years, 13 years of proper education, and then dropping him into the same college class and then getting mad at the kid who's got all the disadvantages, saying you didn't do it right, so you're not going to heaven. You're not. It's like, wait a second. Now that's life. And it is. Life comes with challenges and struggles, and some of us have more than others, and that's just the way it is. But this makes no sense that in a lifetime that in the age of the universe is as quick as snapping your fingers, your entire spiritual existence for eternity is determined by your random placement in life. So somebody who is randomly placed in a really, really, really problematic home, and so they end up making, because people with hard lives must often people make bad choices no matter what they're given and not given, right? But the thing is that some people just don't have a lot of good choices available to them, but they're going to be judged. So the only way for that to make logical sense is to be treating it just like school. Oh, sure. Okay, you failed that class, you get to do it again. Okay, you did well in that class, you get to move ahead. And then being judged against the accumulative value of hundreds of lifetimes makes a lot more logical sense than one. That's what I just spent the last 15 minutes trying to get to. But anyway, and I think, and like I said, for me, quantum physics and its physical undeniable truth of we do not know nearly as much as we think we do, and the things that we think we know are only right sometimes in some circumstances. I think it's really, really important to recognize that, right? So that is my that's my personal logical starting point from why I believe in reincarnation. This plays a big part in why I believe a lot of the things that I do. It's like, because we've got a universe that's billions of years old, but we're the only life in it. No, that doesn't make logical sense for the exact same reasons why a one and done lifetime determining your spiritual future makes no logical sense. The added part of what becomes of the energy of you as you are, does it become part of the multitude of life? This is the interesting question. This is the agree to disagree, or I can believe that some parts of all of it are true. I do not. I think there's a thing in Buddhism where the idea is that this is God, and each individual soul is an extension of God, learning lessons and whatever. And what you're doing in Buddhist philosophy, generalizing, if somebody is an actual Buddhist who actually knows what they're talking about, correct me if I'm way off base. The basic general idea behind Buddhism is that you are a spiritual being. You are living a series of lifetimes because your goal is to evolve, to rise up and either join or rejoin God, at which point you will just become a part of the whole. And I don't know how that works. Now, according to Edgar Cayce and other psychics, Edgar Cayce is my favorite, so I'll probably quote him the most. We are just simply, there's like a barrier. We have our own individual lives, and that makes up the bigger part of who we are. Like, I can sit back and reminisce about what it was like to be in the first grade. Okay, maybe not that far back. I'm kind of old, right? So you remember the core essence of who you remember the core essence of who you are and what you learned between lives. And that adds to the whole as you move along. That makes more logical sense to me than having an experience and then just having it cut off and removed from you when you're done with it, because that makes no logical sense. You don't grow and learn. And unless I'm misunderstanding your question. So I think that at the end of it all, like I said, like, okay, back in the day, I used to do this. Back in the day, I used to that. I remember, I remember the sleepless nights when the kids were young, blah, blah, blah. So I think in that place in between lives, I think this is my personal belief, in that space in between lives, you can more fully remember the individual life experiences that you had in your different lives. And it's kind of like winding, you're in the space in between lives is like remembering, winding down, and integrating at the end of the day. You've had a rough day at work and you have 47 things going. Oh, I remember first grade was the worst. None experiences. Oh, I don't know what I would have done in a religious school, but it was like, okay, so imagine the end of your day. You got up. You had to deal with the kid. Okay, think of the. Okay, break it down. Break it down. This is where the logic comes in. Break it down. So you got up in the morning and first you had to drag your own ass out. I didn't really want to. Okay, self-reliance, responsibility. Then you had kids or a spouse or whatever that you had to deal with. Okay, well, got to make their lunches. Got to get the kids up. Got to do this. Got to do that. Then you had to deal with your morning commute. Then you have your first meeting in the morning where your boss tells you something fucked up. Shit. Now you get a 15-minute break. Then you have to sort out then you have to sort out what your boss bitched about to you in the morning. So now the next one is just like, okay, get her done, got shit to do. Now you're getting a lunch break. It's like, okay, so now you get to stop, take a break, have something to eat, maybe do a little bit, maybe a little self-indulgent time, like, read some of your book, listen to some music. Then it's back to work in the afternoon to find out have the other meeting with the rest of the team and find out the other shit you got to sort out. So we're up to what? We're up to 8 now, right? So now 9 is you get another break, but it's short, it's to the point, and maybe you're stressing, maybe you skipped your break because you're doing, it's like, okay, if I skip my break, I can really, really buckle down on do this and this. Then you're back for the rest of the afternoon. Now you're up to 10, and you've got to worry about the shitty traffic on your commute home, deal with so break up every segment of your day into lifetimes, right? So then at the end of the day, dinner's done, you're just finally relaxing, you can decompress your entire day. And you can not relive, but you can remember, you can go, okay, this happened this morning. If I'd have done this, I probably, now you can look back and go, when this thing happened this morning, if I'd have done this instead of that, it would have been so much easier. I would have gotten better results. And you know what? When I was doing this, if I'd have been doing that instead. And I do think that, so that space between lifetimes, that's the end of your day, where you can take the most recent life and integrate it with the ones after, with the lessons learned, the lessons still left to learn, what you need to do, what you should have done better, what you should have done differently. Relax and reminisce into some of those easy stretches where you didn't have to do a whole lot of anything. I think that's what reincarnation is. I think that's exactly what reincarnate. I think what art imitates life, or life imitates art, right? I think that's exactly what it is. So that's my personal belief. That is, kind of links it to our discussion of dreams a few weeks ago. Our dreams are for the processing the day. The space between lifetimes is for processing the life. Exactly. Hey, look, somebody said it more succinctly than me. That's exactly what the point I was trying to get. So that's what, okay. When you, and like I said, whatever deity, spirit, or practice you apply, intelligent design, I think my personal is, I think intelligent design is just a nice way to, kind of like when you say happy holidays, so that everybody's included. That's intelligent design is what I mean when I'm saying that. And yeah, I don't think intelligent design isn't really very intelligent if it's a one and done. It's not. You cannot depending on the random circumstances under which you were born. Because, okay, your parents decided to have a baby, right? But now, depending on who you're talking to, and Edgar Cayce says you actually choose where you're going to be born based on what lessons you want to learn in that lifetime. So maybe that's the case, right? But the thing is that whatever circumstances under which you were born, regardless of how and why you were born, whether or not we were able to choose where to be born, the reality is that you can only really learn major life. You cannot learn every life lesson in every life. It's just not possible. It's okay. You can touch on things, but like I cannot become a brain surgeon in this life and be a concert pianist and be an astronaut and be a social worker and be an artist. You cannot be all of those. Okay, now you can be one of those things and enjoy small amounts of the other things in your world. But if you are, hi Kaz. Oh yeah. Yeah, if you're stuck at the beginning, just put it on double speed, and then once it catches up to me, it'll bring it back to normal. So the thing is that no matter, okay, my leg's all fucked up. I cannot explore a sports career in this life. I can have an interest in sports, but I cannot explore. Okay, let's say that exploring physical things like sports, like becoming a sports-minded person who's always active, right? Physically active in sports. Let's say that is a life lesson that people need to learn. I physically can't learn that lesson. My leg is all fucked up. Like, my kneecap is it's called a developmental defect. But anyway, I'm physically not able, or I would be like not walking, right? There's no intelligent design that actually has intelligence would allow that to happen without giving me a chance to experience that. I can't experience that unless I get a whole new body in a whole new life. Okay. So we have beaten to death why I believe what I believe. I don't think anybody is, anybody who's disagreeing with me here seems to only be disagreeing on minor details, which is fine. You're allowed. I won't get mad. You're allowed. I'll still love you all anyway. Okay. Oh, this is Kendra said this and I missed it. I was just scrolling up to see if I missed anything. I saw a video of a woman that had died and said that we are all like energy and we come to Earth School to learn things for our soul. We can choose to come back to learn more stuff. Exactly. And I think there are certain things that we have to learn. I think there are certain things that we're required to learn. I think there are certain things that we can choose to learn. And I think that we have a lot of control over. Okay, imagine high school. How many adults go back to school to finish their GED? Now, certain things in the real world you cannot do and you cannot access without certain levels of education. I think there are certain spiritual levels that you cannot ascend to unless you've learned certain lessons. But then again, I'm not there, and we're not having this conversation on a spiritual plane, so we can assume. Yeah, what about the people that have had near-death experiences, die, then wake up speaking a different language or have a thick accent for a country they have never been to? Oh, we're going to get into that. Okay. So we will use that as our jumping point. So we spent like the first hour just talking about, from my perspective, this is what I believe to be logical reasoning why reincarnation is a rational, reasonable thing to believe in. That's just where I stand. This is what I believe. This is why I believe it. And of course, like I said, my belief is the belief itself is quite flexible. Are we forced into these lives? Do we have a choice? But I don't think that we get to move on. I do believe the Buddhist concept of planes of existence. So we have this. A lot of Western people would say multiple dimensions of existence or multiple planes of existence, right? So Buddhists, we start off in this plane. Now, in Buddhism, if you are a bad person in this life, you can be reborn as an animal and stuff like that, and you can move forward or backwards. I think that's rational, and I think that's a rational, reasonable thing to think. I've said it so much that now I can't say it. Yeah, I accept reincarnation depending on how it is defined. Honestly, yeah, like I think that reincarnation, the concept of reincarnation makes absolute sense. Everything else is my opinion only. We can't prove it. We cannot prove it. We have people like Edgar Cayce that say certain things, and I do agree. I think I do agree with most of what he's had to say about that sort of thing. So basically, according to Edgar Cayce, when you die, you don't really go to heaven. Like you go into an afterlife, you go into a place of spirit, and you get to like rest there for a while. And because there's not really a sense of time, a while can be a few days, a few minutes, a few centuries. It just depends on what you need, right? And since there's no sense of time for you, it's not really changing anything. And then you decide, or sometimes it's decided for you, this is a lesson that you should be working on. You decide, you play a part in deciding who you want your next family to be, where you want to be. You do have some choices, but you are choosing a life that's going to put you in connection with that thing that you need to learn. Pardon me. And that's like when you go to college and you choose, I'm going to take a business course. So the college, that's the general idea, and then you're being put into you're choosing what you're going to do with that once you're there. I believe it's a choice to come back to this earth school. I do think there's definitely there's elements of choice in that. I think if you fuck up badly enough, I think you may lose your choice until you've earned it back again, if that makes sense. But then again, that's just based on stuff that I've read from, like there's other prophets and there's more than just John Casey. I mean, Edgar Casey out there. There's also John Dee. He's back in like the 1400s. Nostradamus. He had a few things to say about stuff like that in a very careful kind of way because he was afraid of the Inquisition. So I think that most of us get to choose, but it's like if you fail a class, you don't get to choose whether or not you're going to not bother with it, right? Like if you need these 20 classes to pass and get your degree, then you don't get to choose whether or not, oh, I failed that one, I'm not going to do it. You don't get to choose that, right? Yeah, Moira says, I don't think the choice is a part of this in the way that we conceive of choice. I don't know. Now, it's really interesting because my like Lisa did a past life reading on me, and she was pretty specific saying that in this lifetime that I was not given a choice. And it was like, she explained this in a really interesting way because basically other people around you can affect your ability to make a choice. And kind of what she kind of said about me in this one reading, because when Lisa does a past life reading, it gets really freaky. When Lisa did her reading on me, Lisa did a past life, one of the very first past life readings Lisa did on me, she actually talked about this life and said that the man who raised you is not your father. 15 years later, we find out he's not my dad. So it's like, oh, so now I think back on a lot of the stuff that she said during past life readings, and it's like, the various readings and past life readings and whatnot. And it's like, oh, so one of the things that she said about me was that basically in at least one of my past lives, I was in this particular circumstance, and I'm not going to get into too much detail on it. Basically, I was some sort of a teacher or whatever in some sort of a past life. And one of my students got really, really jealous. And she said, this is like this, because she's like, I can't really grasp this. This is, you shouldn't be able to come back if you are here to harm. See, now in the Buddhist tradition, if you are here to harm, you come back as like a slug. You start over. And according to Buddhism, the lower life forms, animals and whatnot, are either new souls working their way up or old souls that are being punished and being forced to redo. So anyway, so what Lisa had to say about me was basically that, like, at some point in time, somebody got really, 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 like, somebody who was like just not meant to be where they were got entangled with me, and my job was to be like their mentor or something, like during life and in between lives or something like this. I'm not even sure if she could explain it. And this was so long ago. So basically, in between lives, this person who was also in between lives at the same time did something and basically forced me into this life so that they could follow me into this life. And she said she kind of said that basically the good news is she said that this person didn't really succeed at what they were hoping to succeed at, because the whole purpose of them doing this was basically competition. It's like, well, if I do this to you, then I'll be the one who gets ahead, and this sort of thing, right? But basically, in her past life reading, this is the weird part, and I know I'm being kind of vague, but in the past life reading, she said that the interesting thing is that once you were pushed into this life, and then this person followed you into this life, basically my sister. It's like, yeah, in a previous life, you were the teacher, she was the student, and that the jealousy that existed then, because I'm just as good as you are. It's like, well, you will be, just keep trying, right? This sort of thing. She said, yeah, so this happened, and but what she also said was that the really interesting thing is that what she said is that at the end of this life, she will be held accountable for having done that, because she did it. She didn't do it because she was trying to learn lessons. She did it because she was trying to compete and get revenge, which is really interesting because it kind of fits in with some of the stuff that Edgar Cayce and other people were saying, is that if we do bad things in our life, then we will be held accountable between lives. We will be held accountable between lives. We will be held accountable for what we have done to other people and stuff like that. And that sometimes what we do, and that we can still be affected between lives, but the emotion, it's all different. It's because we're not coming in with the volatile on the surface emotions. We're coming at it from a much different, like, mind headspace. I'm going to have to I'm just kind of like doing this off the top of my head based on what I can remember. I need to get another past life reading from her is what I need to do. I think that many people who cause harm are here to help others with the lessons they are meant to learn. I think that's entirely possible. Some of the best lessons I've learned is by watching other people make mistakes, going, whoa, that's not okay, and I don't want to be like that. Recognizing, like, I used to be really belligerent and mouthy back in the day. I was never a violent person or anything like that, but like somebody pissed me off, I was like, yeah, it's fucking wrong, this sort of thing, right? And I've watched other people be like that and take it to the next level, and it's like, whoa, wait a second, I'm just mouthy. I don't need that shit, right? So it's like, okay, if I don't want that shit, I need to stop being I need to learn to communicate better, use my words. Anyway, I'm going to hard stop on this part because we're going to deep dive into some stories. So one of the most famous, there's a photo of her, so I'll bring this up. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this person. This is Shanti Devi, known as Ludgi Devi. In her alleged past life, was an Indian woman who claimed to remember her previous life and became the subject of reincarnation research. Now, she was an Indian girl. A commission set up by the Indian political leader Mahatma Gandhi supported her claim, while another report by researcher Balchand Nahada disputed it. Subsequently, several other researchers interviewed her and published articles and books about her. So this is one of the first people, December 11th, 1926. And she died in 1987, age 61. She was an Indian girl who was born remembering her past in another life. This is really important because she is very, very, very well researched, and her story remained consistent throughout her entire life. The unfortunate side effect of the fact that she was an Indian girl, where Buddhism is, the Hindu religion also supports reincarnation. So she's from a culture where she's from a culture and a religion where Hinduism and Buddhism both support reincarnation. So it's going to be easy for people to point the finger and go, well, of course they believe, of course the research would take her side because it supports the religion of the region. Makes it more difficult to take her seriously, but let's take a look at her anyway. I've been thirsty today. Okay. She was born in Delhi, India. As a little girl in the 30s, she began to claim to remember details of a past life. According to these accounts, when she was about 4 years old, she told her parents that her real home was in Mutara and her husband lived about 145 kilometers from her home in Delhi. So her parents obviously don't do this. She ran away at the age of 6, trying to reach Mathura. Back home, she stated in school that she was married and had died 10 days after having given birth to a child. So basically, she told the name of her husband. She told the name of the town that she was from. Um, the headmaster of the school located a merchant by the name in Mathura who had lost his wife, Ludga Devi, 9 years earlier, 10 days after having given birth to a son. So basically, this girl is making these claims over and over and over again, starting at about 4 years old. She's making these claims and is so adamant about it that she actually tries to run away. And then they discover somebody with the same, they discover the person and the place and the situation as she said it existed. So Kedar Nath traveled to Delhi, pretended to be his own brother, but Shanti recognized him and Ludgi Devi's son, as she knew several details of his life with his wife. He was soon convinced that Shanti. She remembered several details of his life while he was with her when she was his wife, and he was soon convinced that Shanti Devi was indeed the reincarnation of Ludgi Devi. So Mahatma Gandhi catches wind of it. They set up an investigation. So the fact that this happened in India, it was obviously going to be taken a lot more seriously. So it was investigated a lot more seriously. Unfortunately, because this happened to be India in the 1930s, where religion had a much stronger influence then than it does now, and religion is still a very strong influence in Indian culture. So it makes it easy to believe because it was researched. It also makes it easy to believe that the research was faked just to make Hinduism look more appealing, especially considering at the time India was still under British domination and would, of course, had a lot of incentive to have Hinduism more supported. Yeah, whatever material that has come before us does not warrant us to conclude that the Shanti Devi has former life recollections, or that this case proves reincarnation. But it did set the tone for people taking the idea of reincarnation way more serious. Hi, Wampus Slumpus. Yeah, I need to get another reading from Lisa and let you guys know about it, because now, then versus now, back then when she would do a reading on me, I didn't have a lot of questions. Wasn't a lot of reasons for questions. Since we found out that my dad is not my dad and a few other things, it's like, well, now I have questions. Now I would have interesting questions to go along with all that. But it's really interesting. A lot of the things that she said that she said in those initial readings that we first, because you first get together, life is still exciting, do a bunch of readings. A lot of the stuff that she had to say has basically been, like I said, my dad is not my dad. Who says that? Who says, oh, the man who raised you isn't your father? But neither is the guy. There was a family rumor. There was a family rumor that my uncle was actually my dad. And Lisa knew nothing about that. And she basically said, the man who raised you isn't your father. The other person, the other something also is not, or whatever. I forget just quite how she said it, but yeah, the tea. There's not a lot of tea. We're talking about reincarnation. What was real? I was just talking a little bit about some past life readings Lisa did on me, and some of the stuff that she did on past life readings, like, whoa, oh, in this spot between lives, this thing happened. I think everybody's tried to do cards for themselves for past life. I just get stuff that makes no sense. Yeah, you're making me want to get a past life reading from Lisa. I'm not even sure if she's still really doing them. I'd have to ask her. Like, I mean, I know that if I ask her, she'll do one for me. She's probably going to make me wait until her deck comes out. Now, she is so freaking, oh my God. Everything's good. Lisa's good. Everything's fine. But oh my God, the deck stuff, everything's starting to move into high gear now. So I don't want to say high strung as a bad thing, but she's pretty high strung right now. She's being very open and honest about she's being open and honest about her moods and her whatever as they shift every 5 minutes. But yeah, she's in super high strung mode right now. She wouldn't be able to. She would not. Past life readings and stuff like that take a lot more of her concentration and energy. Regular readings, sure, she can do those in her sleep. She's just so in tune with that part of it. Past life readings, I don't think there's any way she could do one right now, even if she wanted to. But like I said, once bug her and see what happens. I'll bug her. Maybe, There are lots of Akashic and past life readers on YouTube. Yeah, there's tons of them around. Yeah, oh my God, I wouldn't ask for a reading now. I'm not even asking her what time it is. Okay, like she came home yesterday. I'll tell you guys this, but she came home yesterday and a little monkey wrench got in the works because she warned me. She said, I'm probably going to go through stages of being Tarot-zilla, right? Like Bridezilla, but Tarot-zilla. A little monkey wrench got thrown into her works yesterday. Nothing that was too horrible. Not really. In the grand scheme of things, it just required some. Oh, it's one of those things. Yeah. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, this happened, and now we have to go detail diving to sort out the details. She came home and she said, I had such, and then she had a rough day at work as well, her day job. She's going, I had a day at work. My God, I am such a bad mood today. I am just so angry today. I'm just started crying. And it's like, okay, come here, let me hug you. So, yeah, didn't last long. It only lasted for a couple minutes. It was like, by the time she settled down, it was more funny than anything. But yeah. She warned me. We knew this was going to happen. You know what? If I ask her, she'll make an exception for me. I just don't know that I don't know that she's really able to concentrate. Like, I don't know how to describe this. Like, so she's doing her membership readings tomorrow, and that's going to be no problem because she'll just turn off the day and get to it. But yeah, past the deeper readings and stuff, it just takes too much out of her. Oh, okay. We'll see you later. Oh, you'll still be listening. Okay, as long as you're listening. Oh, okay. So Shanti Devi basically started the whole modern era of looking into reincarnation. Kind of started with her, but like I said, don't forget we've still got Matthew 17 verses 11 to 13. Where Jesus says, Elijah came back to fix all this stuff, but you guys didn't recognize him. Now, don't forget also, because he's referring to John the Baptist. John the Baptist died in prison, and it was routine, torture, let him die in prison. So basically, they made it very clear. So this girl starts the modern resurgence of reincarnation and stuff like that. But the concept existed from Jesus's time and before, and that's just in Christianity. The concept itself has existed for thousands of years in Hinduism and Buddhism. I'm not sure just how old Buddhism actually is. Buddhism kind of rejects the idea of gods and goddesses, that the Hindu pantheon, and just basically focuses on the reaching nirvana, reaching purity. So this is okay. I'm gonna bring this one up because this is from the University of Virginia, a university division of perceptual studies. So this is actually being studied at the university level. Okay, some young children, usually between the ages of 2 and 5, speak about memories of a previous life they claim to have lived. At the same time, they often show behaviors such as phobias or preferences that are unusual within the context of their particular family and cannot be explained by any current life events. So this is this one here. Okay, this is, of course, it goes to a book. Okay, so this is a story of James. Does this switch with me? Oh my God, I didn't even bring it up. Okay, let me just bring it back. I am so bad for this. So this is from the University of Virginia, Division of Perceptual Studies. So we have the following list is designed to give an idea of what a parent or caregiver might hear from a child reporting memories of a previous life. This list is not meant to be exhaustive, as the statements can be quite varied. You're not my mommy and daddy. I have another mommy and daddy. When I was big, I used to have that happened before I was in mommy's tummy. I have a wife, husband, children. I used to drive a truck, live in another town. I died. Sometimes I remember dying. Remember when I, and then they start talking about things that didn't happen. And of course, they're just making things up, right? So basically what we're looking at is thousands of cases. There are literally thousands of cases now I'm going to click on this. It goes to a book. It goes to a Amazon book. I remember reading an article about this kid. This is a story. This is James Leininger. About 2 weeks after his second birthday, began having blood-curdling nightmares, just would not stop. When he began screaming out recurring phrases like "plane on fire," "little man can't get out," they finally admitted that they had to take notice. Okay, the story of this kid, and this is just the cover of an Amazon book. The story of this kid is freaky because, well, okay. Listen to me tell you about this. I'll be right back. I'm gonna tough it out. I need something bubbly. Hi, puppy. Are you in my spot? Okay. Ever since I had a super mild case of COVID back in January. Not a big deal. It's been gone for a long time now. But ever since then, it's like sometimes I just need the extra bubbly. I just get, and then the extra bubbly is the only thing that makes it feel like it's going away. Okay. So we're going to talk about this guy. This guy's name, James Leininger. And I remember this. I remember reading about this kid's story in. Let me see if I can just look him up by his name. James Leininger, when he was a young kid, started having all these dreams, started freaking out about all this shit. Now, I'm not going to get the entire story right because I obviously don't have the book, right? But come on. I'm kind of hoping for a well, there you go. Was that him? A young boy with the perfect memory of World War II woke up in the middle of the night screaming after experienced a plane crash nightmare. This is from 2022. So, this kid, wakes up and he starts having this dream. He starts having this really crazy dream about being in a plane, and he's not that old. Okay, like he's not even as old as I am. So he's not somebody who's going to have been raised on hearing stories of World War II or stuff like that. That just wasn't his experience. So this kid is being so specific about where he was, what his name was, what was going on. He's having nightmares that the parents are going, oh, there's something to this. They look it up. This comment led to James. Yeah, he said he was Lieutenant James McCready Huston. He named himself. He eventually named himself, right? Talked about the kind of plane that he was in, gave a name. His father looks it up, discovers that there had been a small escort carrier called the Natoma Bay. So basically, this kid is giving very, very specific information that only somebody who is there could really be giving. And they look it up and they find out that the child was so convincing and coming up with all the things that there is no way in the world he could know. And don't forget, you're talking like a kid starting at about the age of 2 to 5. Now, even my kids were both really, really smart. Oh, okay. Well, we'll see you later, Wampus Slompus. I'm probably going to be here for a little bit long. I usually don't shut up until I have nothing left to say, so I'll be here for a while. We haven't picked next week's topic yet, but we'll get to that later. So, okay. So basically, what ends up happening? This kid. Now we're talking. What does it say? Give a year. or was that on the? Doesn't say what year it was. Took a turn. He experienced a shocking nightmare one evening in 2002. Now we've got the internet now. Okay. This is where it really matters. The internet is the quantum physics of research, really, when you really come down to it, because now we've got access. I've got access to levels of research just from my living room without having a degree in anything that nobody else has, that nobody else had back when I was a kid. If I were having these kind of dreams in 1965, 66, because I was born in 64, if I started having these kind of dreams and started talking about this back then, go back to sleep, you're just having a dream. Even if my parents were to go, something's really fucking weird here, what are they going to do about it? What can you do? No internet, no way to, there's no internet. You don't just phone up your local university and ask them to start. My kid said that she used to live in Australia back 200 years ago. Can you look this up? There's no way, right? Now I can just go online and go, this kid I know dreamt about this. Plug in the details. Does this town exist? Did this person exist? Click a couple of buttons and I'll get something, right? 2002, this happens. So this kid is adamant about all of these details, and his family is able to start looking shit up. And they're finding it. So now these people are calling around, and I do believe that I believe this family went through their church. I forget where they went. They started looking into this. They got a psychologist. They got all kind. They got people involved, and it started to grow, right? After Bruce concluded his research on the fighter pilot, he and his wife wrote a letter to Lieutenant Houston's sister, Ann Barron, about their little boy, and she believed that the young James was a reincarnation of her brother. The child was so convincing and coming up with all the things that there is no way in the world he could know. So basically, once you get past the details, I can have a dream and I can say, this is who I am. This is I used to be this. So I think I'm this guy. Let's say that I've got some sort of a mental problem. And it's like, I read this. This happens, by the way. People will read a story or encounter a thing, and then they think that that's them. So all of a sudden I wake up tomorrow and I go, I was that guy in a past life. I contact his family and they say, okay, what was his favorite food? Even the internet can't tell you that, right? This kid is providing details that nobody but this guy and his family could know. And the family's like, this happened. He did have a little scar on his big toe from stepping on a piece of glass one day. How did your 3-year-old know this? Right? So this is a very documented case at a time when this kid's going, the family are talking to, psychologist Jim Tucker told National Public Radio that Lieutenant Huston's plane crashed exactly the way that young James Leininger had described. And here's something about little kids. Yeah, did you ever notice that people will say things like, I think I was Queen Elizabeth, but you never hear, I think I was a poor peasant in Serbia. This is why, one of the reasons why I think that I really have a lot of faith in Edgar Cayce and what he had to say, because all of the big name people that are making, now he did say that he was a head priest in Egypt. He says he was a head priest. He was reincarnated as a head priest in a particular time in Egypt. But his other experiences, he's like, I was a servant in this person's house, but I wasn't that person. I worked in the same city as this person. So it's like, okay, I live in the Vancouver area, right? So there's a lot of film studios around here. So as a matter of fact, just last week, there's a TV series called Fire Country, I guess. I think it's a Netflix series or Amazon or something. Morning, Nanny B. So that series was filming just next door to there's a school, right? There's our condo, our building is here, and there's a school just off the end, and they were filming there, right? So I can say, I can go over and watch them for an afternoon, right? And I can go, oh yeah, I saw those guys filming the other day. Yeah, they look like they were really good actors, right? That's what you kind of expect to see from the real world. But yeah, there's way too many people that are like, oh, I'm a reincarnation of that guy. It's like, no, you might have been, if your reincarnation might have put you in proximity to that guy. Like, okay, George Washington and his famous crossing of the Potomac, right? That's just one that pops at the top of my head. How many people say I was George Washington? It's like, well, no, you were there with George Washington, right? I'm off on my own little tangent right now, but the thing is that people like to think it's called main character syndrome, right? It's like, oh well, if this is what's going on, I was Catherine the Great's horse groom. Exactly. That's what most of us were. Most of us, but like major events in history, like, because didn't George Washington get like 20 or 30,000 men across the Potomac? Major Civil War battles, 100,000 men on each side. It's like, if you were there, you saw some shit, right? If you were there, you saw who was given the command. So the idea that everybody, we can't all share the same thing. Then again, if it's possible for say me and Moira and Nanny B are all extensions, are all the same soul living 3 different lives at the same time, because in the spiritual plane, time, space, and distance have no meaning, then if all 3 of us have the same that's an interesting I was an asshole in one of my past life recalls. Big guy that was a wife beater, not very famous. Yeah, you don't want to claim to fame for that, right? This is interesting. Okay, so 10 people say that they are Cleopatra, that they remember being Cleopatra, but in the in-between life phase, in that astral plane, we have no sense of time. Because who was it? Wasn't it Kendra? Yeah. Kendra's kind of saying the same thing now. If we all go to a collective consciousness, could we all be part of everyone? Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's like I do think that is one possibility. Is that if time, space, and distance are just constructs, then it's possible that we could all be that means that all of us. Pardon me. That means that all of us on Earth right now are what, maybe like 6 souls, 5, a million. I don't know. I don't think. Okay. Anything's possible. We're not there until somebody comes back with a signed notebook saying, okay, I double checked, this is what's going on. We're never going to know. But the thing is that for most of us, I think not for every one person, for every one Alexander the Great, there's a billion people that just lived a normal average life. So yeah, Moira said, I think our consciousness does not remain whole from one life to the next. It splinters when we pass. I think that's possible. I think there's something there's something that's said in Buddhism about how our soul purpose, SOUL, our soul purpose is to learn all those lessons to advance until we can reach enlightenment and return to God. So become part of a whole. I mean, I don't know. I'd like to think that part of me as an individual is retained as an individual. You don't want to find out that you were just the baby finger, right? Everybody wants this. I want this to mean something, So I don't think I want to give it too much thought personally, but then again, I overthink that shit all the time. So yes, I have given it lots and lots of thought. But yes, now that I 100% believe. I do believe we are all part of everyone in the sense that we are all connected at the ultimate level of consciousness. I definitely think we're all connected. I think that we are all connected. I think the biggest question is, in our raw spiritual form, are we individual, independent entities the way we are in this plane of existence, or are we like a neural network with individual nodes, but massively connected everywhere? and it's hard to say. Like, I mean, we don't really have a lot of reason. I think when you apply, okay, I like to apply logic. Logically, what makes sense, and logically, they both make sense. Logically, both things make sense. To be an individual standing alone, but having the ability to connect with everybody else. But it also makes sense to be a part of a whole. So I think I like to think that we are all fully interconnected, but we maintain a core individuality. Like I said, like imagine an atom. Imagine a let me see. No, that's not what I want. Yeah, that's what I want. That's not what I want. The one I want's not there. I'm so sad. Come on. No. Okay, like that. Like that. That's a carbon atom, right? And so I would like to think that we are all individually, I would like to think that we retain some degree of individuality while being interconnected. That's what I would like to see. Yes. So that's what I like to think. So I think what Michelle says, like, so I think that it's like, I think Michelle is correct. We are part of everyone at the ultimate level of consciousness, but that we do retain a degree of individuality. And the carbon atom, and that's quantum physics again. Well, hello, fuzzy butt. Okay, I'll leave you alone. My dog wants to be left alone. So yeah, so I think that's kind of the nutshell version of what I would like to think is the truth. But for all we know, it's just a bucket. For all we know, it's just a bucket, and we're just a drop of water that goes ba-doop and gets remixed every time. We don't know. We've got no way to know. But I do think that if we're just if we're just the baby finger, then all of this has no meaning, right? Yeah, just one lifetime makes no sense. It makes no sense when you, like I said, when you think of intelligent design, we're gonna use the regular Christian analogies because it's what most of us are familiar with. But it's like we say, oh, God is a loving God, and God does this, and God does that. It's like God gives us a lifetime that lasts this long, and then sends us to hell for eternity based on what we did with our one and only chance. That makes no sense. That is not okay. That there's a problem here. There's a big problem with that. Yep, I do think that's why we run into old souls. I think there's a core piece of ourselves that we retain. Like imagine that you're part of a family that just sits around and just chit chats about everything all day long. You're just a chattery, happy, loud bunch, right? I think that's what we are in our spiritual form. I think that we're interconnected. We pass information back and forth often and easily. I think that we're all part of a cohesive whole. But I do think that I think we retain a degree of our individuality, because otherwise we're just a big fucking ant colony and there's no point. Honestly, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how to articulate what I'm thinking, but I think that possessing individuality and free will at this level of existence makes absolutely no sense if it does not exist in any other form of existence that we're going to experience. Does that make sense? But I think it's like I said, I think it's atoms. I think it's like there's definitely a connection. Ooh, okay, Kendra's Journey. We got to go watch that. Can I? You're a mod, Kendra. Put your mods can share links as far as I remember. Link your video. So anybody wants to go see your ice storm video with your crows. Yeah, I think I've got 4 crows coming in now. I've got Norma and Norman, and either one of their kids now as a mate, or 2 of their kids are coming back. I don't know how. Hey, as long as you guys get it, as long as somebody gets it, you know what? As long as nobody's offended, I can't help it if people get offended, but I'm never trying to offend anybody. Anyway, so I do think that, like I said, quantum physics is its own thing. Oh, okay. You open up another tab and go to your. Here, I'll do it. No, that's not the one I want. NH Ice Storm 2024? Is that it? Yeah, basically you just go to your video, go to the video that you want to share, and then just go into just copy whatever's in the, you just open up a separate tab, go to the video that you want to share. That's your NH Ice Storm 2024 video. Is that, yeah. So that is Kendra's crows in her yard. If you want to go see more crow videos, I got to do something with my crows because I can only, because of the way my balcony is set up, I can only really get them from a couple of angles, which is fine. But this summer, I want to clean up my balcony, rearrange things a little bit, and then start going out there and see if I can start getting them to hand feed a little bit. Because then I can change, then if I can be out there more, then they will get more relaxed and I'll get really good stuff. Yeah, crows are awesome. Crows are so smart. Yeah, so that's Kendra's. Go watch it. Go watch her video. Give her a little love. No, I'm just kind of fast scrolling through it. I'll come back and watch it later though. Oh yeah. About the 4-minute mark. Oh, there they are. Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of stuff in the trees. That's all I say. I'm not going to tell you what flowers are blooming out here. Okay. So we're going to go back to this guy. Now this guy, I remember this guy because basically the situation as it existed for how this guy was, the research and all that stuff was done. And yeah, like now we have the internet, you can pass emails back and forth and do all sorts of fucked up things to do a hoax, but it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Yeah, but in the cases like James, the previous person, he was a pilot who was killed 50 years before. Andy was from Pennsylvania, and James was in Louisiana. It seems absolutely impossible that he could have somehow gained this information as a 2-year-old through some sort of normal means. Now, here's something else. I keep starting this sentence and not stopping it, so I'm going to just say it. No matter how well you coach a kid who is 5 years old or younger, they will fuck it up every single time. They will fuck up the details. A 5-year-old, when a 2-year-old, when a kid in that age group. Now, if you keep it super simple, tell daddy your toes are green. Okay, whatever, right? Keep it super simple. They can be consistent. But this is the story that came. The story that came out about this as it was unfolding, because I watch this stuff all the time, right? It's like, so I went and looked it up, and it's like this kid's story was detailed. This kid's story was very, very detailed and very, very consistent. He basically told the same story every time. So this is why I think that this particular case of this kid is not. What the heck? Nope, that's not what I want. That's why I think, I've already read the entire story, right? So I'm not gonna go buy the book, but this is why I think that this kid's story makes sense. This kid's story makes a lot of sense. Like I said, the younger kids, when kids are that age, they can't keep a story straight at all. That's why when you see young kids in roles on TV, their lines are usually like 2 to 3 words at best. They can't do it. They can't maintain it, and it breaks down under questioning. Unless now, a small thing, sure, like little things, but this kid's story was detailed. Now this one here, oh, this is going to go to a video. This kid, this is another kid. He remembered being a Hollywood extra and talent agent, but he didn't remember being a big name star. He just remembered being a regular average person. James Leininger remembered being a regular average person. It seems, and it's really interesting. These kids that are being born with these young kids that are coming up with these stories, their stories are average, mundane, stuff like that. They're very normal. They're very normal, and they're not in the stories that the kids themselves are telling are very, very involved. They have a lot of details to offer. That's why they're catching people's attention. But they're not Cleopatra. They are just some average basic person. And most of the time they're remembering their most recent life. They're not really going very much further back than that. Yes, that is the boy that went to where his plane went down in World War II. They actually took him there. And he's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, that was accurate. That was correct. Yeah. His parents believed him, checked all the facts, took him to see the pilot's family, and all the kids' info checked out. Yeah. This and he's not the first kid. He is not. Oh, I went over to another thing, and then I just didn't think to where are we at. And like I said, I find it very easy to, whenever a report like this is consistent in its details, detailed enough to, it's like, okay, because the minute one of these claims gets made, somebody is over there trying to debunk it, right? And this is a claim that okay, what we have? Oh, that's the thing. I need to look up that Bible verse. Where's the other one? But yeah, I think it's really interesting. And like I said, I go back to the Bible one. It's like, at the very, very least, if people that say, oh, the Bible says, it's like, the Bible says that it's happened. The Bible itself acknowledges that it's happened, that it happens at least occasionally. Akashic records. Now the Akashic records, oh, that's somebody offering readings. Okay. The Akashic records are, and this, I'll just go right back to Edgar Casey on this. Oh, have fun with the doggies. With the Akashic records, every single person who has talked about the Akashic records, the Book of Life, has said that it is a record of all your previous lives and all the lives that are going to happen afterwards. Now, I do think there is definitely some conflict there. Popping my head back in, totally out of context. I would love to hear Peggy's and y'all's thoughts on how to learn more about your own past lives. I think there's a lot to learn about your own past lives. My personal opinion is, if you find yourself with an unexplained fascination for something, like I've always been fascinated with like Greek, Egyptian, not necessarily Roman so much, but if you find yourself fascinated with a certain time and place in history, that to me can be a bit of a giveaway. I mean, certain things are just interesting because they're interesting. And also at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, the Greek civilization, the Roman civilization, and the Egyptians, they combined, they make up like 5,000 years of human history. So it's probably a no-brainer to say, well, you're going to be interested in some of it. But like, I think like, okay, like I have this unexplained fear of deep water. Like when the water gets deep, like I don't like deep water. I'm also afraid of heights. Lots of us are, though. Lots of us are afraid of heights for no good reasons. But it's like, well, wait a second. What if I was previously in World War II and died in a plane? Like, what if in one of my previous lives I died in a plane crash over water? Wait a second. That would explain a lot. I think finding out that if we have an above average fascination with certain things, not saying it very well. If we have, okay, like Roman, Greek, Egyptian, that's like 5,000 years of history. India traces back almost 10,000 years. So we're gonna have. Oh, this is interesting, right? So that makes a lot of sense that we're gonna have an interest in that. So you shrug it off. You shrug off the idea of why you might be super interested in blah, but do you have an unusual fascination or interest in something that wouldn't normally? It's like, why do I even find myself wondering about that? What you're asking yourself, why do I care what kind of chariots the Romans use? Why does that little tidbit seem to be just fascinate me endlessly? It's like, oh, maybe that's something maybe that's the thing to meditate on. Does that make sense? Getting a past life reading from somebody you trust obviously can go a long way. Getting more than if you have more than one past life readings and they're pretty consistent with what they're telling you, there would but I think honestly at the end of the day, yeah, it's kind of a catch-22 with neurodivergent fascinations and past life things. Yeah, but if you find yourself inordinately interested, like I have this really insane interest in psychology. It's like, okay, I don't know where that came from though. It's like oh, there's something wrong. It's not this, oh, there's something wrong with you if that fascinates you, but it's a really deep-seated fascination with all things psychology. So it's like, oh, wait a second. Now we have Freud, the father of modern psychology or whatever, but psychology has existed. Psychology used to be called philosophy. It's like, wait a second. So maybe in a past life, I was engaged in some sort of, because philosophy also endlessly fascinates me. It's funny, I cannot tell you, oh, this person believes in this and this person thought this. I can't tell you that, but I can tell you what I think. Does that make sense? I don't know how to describe this. It's like, I can't say, oh, well, Freud talked about this and Jung talked about this. And this is how the two, I don't do that. I can't think like that. It's like, well, yeah, but there's the theory of blah, and then there's the theory of blah. And it's like, it's more generic for me. It's really hard to describe because I think a lot of us are like that. And we feel like if we can't deep dive into these details that we don't know enough to be able to express our interest in something. Yeah, mine is space. It's almost a calling. It's really weird that I don't do astrology. Yeah, exactly. So I think that if you have, it's okay. Okay, we have fascinations with stuff just because we, like I think all of you guys are into tarot. I don't think there's anybody that's found their way here that's not also into tarot, right? But the thing is it like, okay, so why tarot? Why tarot? It's like, so if you find finding tarot interesting doesn't have to mean anything in terms of past lives and past this and past that. But if you find yourself drawn to, I do this, but this seems more correct. It's like it could be an indication of a past habit from a past life. It doesn't have to be, I don't know how to describe this. You're sitting there, you're minding your own business, and something happens out of the blue, and a memory triggers. Oh, I remember back in grade 8, and I was doing this and this and this and this and this. Oh yeah, blah 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 blah, and something just snaps into place from whatever. Yeah, I have visions and inexplicably knowing. Oh yeah, I know shit all the time. I do that. That for me, that's like constant. Sometimes it's like I vibe on something. It's like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that's true, and it's like, oh, there it is. I try to get as deep as I can in meditation and note any images that come to me. Sometimes it comes through like a movie. I've only been boring people, though, I think. Yeah, I think most of us have only been boring people. Because as you start to get more and more interesting, I firmly believe that because they talk about the path to enlightenment, and this is more the Buddhist principle. And I know it's a principle that exists in Hinduism as well. It's just I'm not as familiar with Hinduism has this, pardon me, Hinduism has a lot of the same principles, but it's wrapped around their deities in a way that makes it kind of hard to sort out sometimes for me, just because I'm pretty sure I was a Hindu in a past life, because some of the stuff that's like, oh yeah, blah, 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 that makes sense. And it's like, well, wait a second. It's like, people write entire books explaining this. How can you get it in like how can you do that? Right. But I firmly believe that just like, okay, when you are in high school and you are looking after a kindergartner for an afternoon, and that kindergartner is really proud of themselves for how much they've advanced. I can write my own name now. I know 6 letters of the alphabet. I can count to 10. And you're going, awesome. That's amazing. And you know so much more, right? You're aware of the entire process. You're aware of everything that they're going to have to learn, everything. You are aware of what's coming, and you are aware to some degree of where you're going. So you're a high school kid. You know you're going to college. You know you're going to be built. You now have a better vision of what those goals are going to be for yourself. And this kindergartner, they're doing really, really, really well for where they're at, but you know everything else. I'm firmly believing that on a spiritual growth kind of way, I'm sure that there's people up here going, oh yeah, no, I'm already up here. I'm pretty sure there's people that are remembering their past lives and are just like, nope, gonna keep my mouth shut. That's not my job. I got to do this. I got to do that. Yeah, I've seen myself as a Native American, an English lady, and a small child that died of plague. See, and I think we've all seen ourselves as that. This is where you get this thing. This is where it's like a dream is just a dream. So that can be a thing. And sometimes a dream is telling you something. And sometimes the thing that the dream is telling you has nothing to do with your day-to-day reality. It's literally just picking up a magazine without a title and then trying to figure out picking up a book without a title and then trying to figure out what it's about. And the topic itself is not going to reveal itself for the first until you're 6 chapters in. Yeah, I've got the same thing. I've got weird connections to weird places that it's like, oh, I really want to go there one day. Oh, why do you want to go there? I just do. I just want to go there one day. I see it for myself, this sort of thing. It's like I don't feel like I'll be seeing it for the first time. Does that make sense? I don't feel like these are places I'm going. I feel like these are places I'm going back to. But anyway, I think there are people who are more consciously aware of this than others because in their cycle, they're further ahead. Like I said, but what is said in both Buddhism and Hinduism is that this is like one person in a generation. That's why when these people show up, that's why when these like Buddha, that's why he was considered an incarnation of previous forms, working his way up to enlightenment. This is why there's so few of them, because it's so difficult to get to that point. But I do think that it's possible for some people to be way more aware of their past lives. And I think there's people that are like, oh yeah, this is all my past life. This is what's going on, blah, 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 blah. I think there's people that are very aware of their past lives and they just keep their mouth shut. When I see movies filmed in Scotland, I get shivers down my spine. Yeah, it's funny. I see movies from, I'll see a movie. There's been a couple different times where I'll see a movie and it's like, and they're portraying like, do you guys remember, they used to call Westerns spaghetti Westerns because most of them were filmed. They called them spaghetti Westerns because at that time when those types of Westerns were being filmed, it was cheaper to film in Italy for some reason. I'm not sure what the deal was, right? And so they would be doing this filming. They would be doing this. I don't know what the deal was, and maybe it wasn't just there, but they would do this filming, and I would go, that's not there. Like they're saying this isn't Arizona. What the hell? This is like, and I would recognize where they were. And this is back when I didn't even know anything about the idea. Like, it's like, oh, if they say they're in Arizona, they're in Arizona. If they say they're in Kentucky, they're in Kentucky. Watching these movies and going, that's not where they are. Like they're over here. What? This is Italy. Like, and that kind of weirded me out a bit. First couple of times I noticed that. I don't do it. It's not so much anymore. I'll tell you right now, it's way easier as a kid. It happens way more often as a kid. That's why these reincarnation stories usually involve kids. Let me see. Reader's Digest. Let me see. Professor Jim Tucker thinks that past lives are possible. Here are startling accounts of children who may have been reincarnated. Yeah, somebody's saying, when I was your age, I changed your diaper, said the dark-haired boy to his father. Ron looked down at his smiling son, who had not yet turned 2. He thought it was a very strange thing to say, but he figured he had misheard him. That is something else, too, is a lot of people that are reporting reincarnation, they are staying within the same family chain. I used to be your mother. You used to be my child. You were my brother. Now you're my daddy. Stuff like that. Like a lot of that's happening. And one thing that Edgar Cayce said, he was talking about the French Revolution, actually. He was talking about the French Revolution, and he was talking about the Dauphin, the son of the king, and saying that I really, you know what? I need to go hit a thrift store and see if I can find some of these books. Anyway, but one of the things that he clarified in some of his readings about reincarnation, because there's an entire book, Edgar Cayce, talking about the Akashic records and reincarnation. Yeah, I've done that and had to look up the film site of the film because because they're showing this one. I was like, that ain't right. It's like, oh, I wonder where they filmed. And there's and it's weird because I'm from Ontario originally. But I've always had a fascination with this area, and yet the only reason why we moved to this area of Canada, the Vancouver area, was Montana. For some reason, I'm called to as well. Oh, bye, Wampus. I'm from Ontario. The idea of having the time, energy, or resources to actually move out to BC was just never on my radar. And yet I was always fascinated with all things BC for some reason. And Canada is a huge fucking country. So this is a long way away. Like Europe the entirety of Europe could fit between where I was born and where I'm living now. Canada's a big country, right? We only moved out here for expediency because when Lisa and I got together, she's from the Seattle area. I don't give a shit about my family. So we realized that in terms of her immigration, the best place for us was to come out here. But I never moved out here because, I've always wanted to be out here for some reason. But, you just go, well, that's not possible. So never mind. And ended up moving out here. And it's like, there's so much about this area that's familiar in some weird way. And it's like, it's weird. It's really weird. It's like, that's not what it was like. Every now and again, I find myself thinking that that's not what it was like. Oh, here, that hill never used to have anything on it. Like, whatever. Like it gets weird sometimes. And then you just shrug it off. You shrug. Oh, I've been here for 17 years now. I'm just having a day. You shrug it off. You don't. Most of the really profound shit that happens, we shrug it off as a coincidence, a daydream, deja vu, whatever. It's like, so baby Sam made similar remarks over the next few months. This is the kid telling his dad, I used to be your dad. Ron's late father, who had returned to his family more intrigued and alarmed, Ron and Kathy asked Sam, how did you come back? I just went whoosh and came out the portal, he responded. Although Sam was a precocious child, he'd been speaking full sentences from the age of 18 months. His parents were stunned to hear him use a word like portal. They asked Sam if he'd had any siblings, and he replied that he'd had a sister who turned into a fish. Some bad guys. She died. Eerily enough, Sam's grandfather had a sister who had been murdered 60 years earlier. Her body was found floating in San Francisco Bay, and Kathy then asked gently, do you know how you died? He had died of a hemorrhage. He leaned back, slapped himself with the head. A year before he was born, his grandfather had died of a cerebral hemorrhage. This is the weird shit that kids do. Oh, hey, Blue. Let me see. Yeah. I think we've all had dreams like that, and it's easy to shrug them off. Don't forget, now this is okay. A dream, we talked about dream interpretation. Or have we done dream interpretation yet? Have we done dream interpretation yet? We've talked about dream interpretation, and here's the unfortunate part. I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate. If you have a dream that touches on a past life, there's not always much you can do with it. So we just shrug that off as just a dream. when you have a dream that is trying to help you with thoughts, ideas, or instructions to get through a thing, we recognize and respond to those dreams differently. And then those dreams are the ones that it's very difficult to interpret a past life dream as having any meaning unless it's related to something that you've got going on now. So having a dream like this, it would not be, it's not really, unless there's something else around it, it would not be possible to interpret. So we train ourselves. This is the punchline. We train ourselves to ignore them. We train even when we have an interest in dream interpretation, we train ourselves to ignore dreams that we can't interpret, or to just shrug them off as a fantasy dream, because sometimes a dream is just a dream. Yeah. Scared me awake, but that's why I'm fascinated by all things vintage Victorian times since I was little. I was going to mention something. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. Yeah, famous believers. Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce talked about past lives all the time. His explanation of what it is and how it all works. I really got to go dig that up. Let's see if I can dig it up right now. A book. It's a book. It's a book. It's a book. Okay, let's go straight to Wikipedia. Sometimes Wikipedia really is the most extensive source of something. Okay, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, okay, so during Cayce's life, reincarnation was a popular contemporary subject, but not an accepted part of Christian doctrine, which is one of the reasons why he struggled. And Edgar Cayce did not remember what he said in his trances until he woke up. So because of this, Cayce questioned his stenographer about what he said in his trance state and remained unconvinced. Okay, so Cayce's stenographer, the first time that Cayce was asked about reincarnation, this is what his stenographer wrote down. In this, we see the plane of development of those individuals set upon this plane, meaning the ability to enter again into the presence of the Creator and become a full part of that creation. Insofar as this entity is concerned, so you're an individual entity that joins the creation. I think that's kind of my carbon atom example. Insofar as this entity is concerned, this is the third appearance on this plane, and before this one, as the monk, we see because this was something talking about another person who was asking him about reincarnation. And before this one, as the monk, we see glimpses in the life of the entity now, as were shown in the monk, in this mode of living. So that kind of implies to me that you bring a part of who you are. So part of your individuality, your personality does remain. The body is only the vehicle ever of that spirit and soul that waft through all times and ever remain the same. So basically, Edgar Cayce's idea on reincarnation is that we are just simply animating. The part of us that makes up our spirit or soul is who we are, and we are just animating a body. We are just providing the animating force that runs the body. But Cayce was unconvinced that he had been referring to reincarnation. So yeah, that is what Cayce, that is the nutshell version of what Cayce had to say, and that is without any reference to any of the readings that he did after that. Now this is something. This would be okay. Now this would be teach Peggy a thing, because I don't really have. I definitely believe in past lives. I definitely believe I've had experiences that I definitely believe that I've had like little moments of things that point very specifically to past lives. Lisa's past life readings have been like spot on in reference to things that are happening in my current life now, things like that. But I would love to go through, I would love to talk about how to do it, how to access it and become more fully conscious of it. That would be you guys teaching me a thing. I would love the name to fact check that on it. It would be cool to actually find someone that lived. Yeah, see, that's a thing. That's a thing. Finding the proof of someone that lived. I think it's really interesting. I think that if you could talk to kids, if you have a relatively verbal child and can start talking to them about stuff like this when they're young, hey, do you remember what happened before you were in my tummy? That like kids will tell you the most amazing, but then kids will also make shit up, right? It's hard to figure out what's what sometimes with them. But no, there are thousands and thousands of cases of kids being that's just two. Can children remember their past lives? Yeah, between the age of 2 and 5 is what most happens. Past life regression is a technique that attempts to use hypnosis in order to recover memories from previous lives. According to past life regression therapists, many mental health issues that patients experience may have their origins in traumatic experiences of past lives. Now, that is something that a lot of people believe, and I do think that there's some merit to that, but I don't think it shows up in, I think it shows up in like our phobias or quirks or things like that. Bye, Kendra. I got to get going soon anyway. I got to get these dogs. This dog is just laying there. Shayla's just been over here beside me all day. She just took over there's a big mess. And the more messy this spot is, the more she wants to go lay on it. Yeah, Shanti Devi, and it's really a shame. It's really a shame that she was an Indian girl born in India. That came out really shitty. What I mean is for the purposes of research, and not because there was anything wrong with, because of the obvious religious connection of her culture and country of origin. It makes it as much as famous as her case became, because people were researching and going, this is legitimate, this is legitimate, this is legitimate. People were also using her culture and religion as a reason to say this is all fake, just because it makes this is all okay. It'd be like if a Christian, it's like those Christian women finding Jesus in a piece of toast, right? It's like, you're kind of hardwired to see that even when it's not there. So we don't really believe that anything special is happening. So, and I cannot wait for that kid to show up who has clear memories, talks about those clear memories, and does it in a way that you can prove. I think the proof is already there. I think we've seen far too many of these kids who are just being born going, yeah, I remember this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I think there's way too much evidence that exists demonstrating that it's quite likely, like I said, I believe in it. So I think there's way too much evidence that exists both in Western culture, in our Bible. I think it exists. I think the evidence exists in other religions as well, in their religious writings about this person's supposed to come back, but blah, blah, blah. Like this is all over the place. I think that we just have this innate skepticism that as long as there's a reason to say it's a hoax, it's wishful thinking, that we just dismiss it. And I cannot wait for that one perfect storm of a situation where nobody can just dismiss it. But like we've seen that with UFOs. We really got to go back onto UFOs a little bit more, because we've seen this with UFOs. No matter what gets disclosed and posted and talked about, no matter how this is or isn't handled, we still nobody. ET is going to land. ET is going to land, step out of their spaceship, address the United Nations, and there are still people that are going to go, it's a fucking hoax. So that's a thing. The unfortunate problem is that we can talk about the details. What I find really fascinating is, for the most part, the details are the same. These same kids from different countries, different languages, different cultures, different religions are coming back with the same thing. This is who I was. This is what was happening. This is how it happened. This is the name I remember. And then the families that are taking the time to listen to these kids are going, oh, this shit happened. Sometimes these kids are staying within the same family. Sometimes they're just going off somewhere completely different. Yeah, this one here's a short article from me. This is a short Reader's Digest. This is the one I was just on. Yeah, 6 kids. This is talking about 6 kids that they talked about, but unfortunately, it's mostly leading to books and stuff. The Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama. Why did we not talk about the Dalai Lama? The Dalai Lama, this is like the most famous story of reincarnation that ever existed. Okay. Are we really just going to do the... Okay. Let's see if I can just do this right quick. The Dalai Lama, he is the 14th Dalai Lama, and according to Tibetan tradition, he is the 14th incarnation of the original first Dalai Lama. So he is been reincarnated 14 times, and when the Dalai Lama dies, and this goes back to, wasn't it you, Kendra, that said you could be that 2 of your incarnations can be alive and on the earth at the same time? Okay, so what happens is the first Dalai Lama died, and they took his artifacts. They took the things that they took a few of the things that were important to him in his life. They preserved those things, and they immediately went on the search for his incarnation, for his reincarnation. Okay, so then they find a boy that's between the ages of 2 and 5, who has previously talked about. So all of these conditions have to be met, right? And Tibet is a very Buddhist country, very pacifist, very peaceful country. So the Dalai Lama dies. They immediately go on the search for his reincarnation, because they believe that the same Dalai, because the Dalai Lama is very close to enlightenment, this sort of thing. So they go and they find a boy who passes all of the tests. It's like, okay, this might be him. And then the monks come, they test this kid, and if he passes everything, then he is recognized as the next incarnation of the Dalai Lama, lives his life as the Dalai Lama, the spiritual and religious leader of the country. And this has happened 14 times, and every time. So basically, the current Dalai Lama is believed to be the 14th incarnation of the same person. And because Buddhism strongly recognizes, Buddhism is based almost entirely on the idea of reincarnating your way up the food chain until you reach enlightenment. Once you reach enlightenment, then you can step off the wheel and you don't have to be reborn again, because according to Buddhism, the life living a life, your individual life is more, not necessarily a punishment, but it's school, right? It's not the fun part. You're not a grown up yet. You're not independent yet. So you move into the next phase of existence once you do all this stuff. So the thing is, the Dalai Lama when you look at the writings and the teachings about the Dalai Lama as a person, he is the 14th incarnation of the same person. And every single time this kid is born, usually this particular Dalai Lama, yeah, school equals punishment. School is not fun. School, there's a lot of element, like, so basically our purpose, and here's the thing, even the Bible, even every single religious text says our purpose on this world is to learn and grow and be fit to join God. Doesn't matter what your religion is. The base core belief of most religions is that you are trying to grow into that way, like this whole one and done. You have one lifetime to figure it out, and you either go to heaven or hell. Okay, every single religion has the exact same philosophy of you must do this stuff, become you need to become a bigger, better, more spiritual, more whatever, so that you can graduate into an entity that is fit to be in the presence of God. Perfection, eternal joy, this and this and this, right? So the Dalai Lama is the since the time of the fifth Dalai Lama in the 17th century, his personage has always been a symbol of unification of the state of Tibet, where he has represented Buddhist values and traditions. Let me see. Am I gonna get anything first? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna skip to the 14th. So basically, they basically look for a kid who is already all on his own, spiritual by choice. And when you're in, it's like, okay, like look at the Christian value. Oh, mom, let's say your prayers before you go to bed, that sort of thing. So they're looking for a kid who's already religious, who is not necessarily like a small farming community, and you've got this one kid who's already like a monk. So they look for these kids, and they don't find very many of them, and then they go test these kids, and these kids that are being recognized are. This is where I said about I don't know anything about I know about Buddhism. I don't know anything about the Dalai Lama or what he personally represents. But it's like I do think that there are people that are further up the food chain who are like, like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. So this guy was recognized by the time he was like 4 or 5 years old as the spiritual leader of Tibet. He has been taught the life and the history of all of these past 14 Dalai Lamas. So this is who he is. This is now who he is, right? So can you imagine a life where you were recognized at a young age? My kid overheard that and agreed aloud that she's an honor student. Hey, anybody can be an honor student. Anybody can be anything, I guess, except for I can't be a football player, but And I'll tell you right now, everybody's a genius at something. Everybody is a genius at something. So I had one that liked school, and I had one that didn't, and they're both smart boys. So there's that. Anyway. But yeah, so I do think that I think I hate school more than my kids. I didn't like school. Didn't like it. I did not like school at growing up, but the funny thing is that I will spend a couple of hours learning about something just because I can. I do not like organized education, but I love learning shit. It's weird. Like I don't know. I was never really, the classes I liked, I got great marks, and the classes I didn't like, I barely passed. So I was a solid like B-, C+ average. It was okay. It was whatever. But yeah, it's interesting though. If you read the story of the Dalai Lama, though, you're going to find that the idea in Tibet, and Tibet especially, Tibet itself as a country, the idea of the kids being born and being different. Like I said, you're born to a small poor farming family, and you're like super religious and acting a certain way. They're like, oh yeah, he must be the reincarnation of a monk. and they just take it so completely for granted that it's like it's crazy just how mundane and common they believe it. And it's a completely different experience over there when you, and of course you only get to read about it. That's one country I have an absolute fascination. I have a total fascination with Tibet. It's like there's something going on. I think there's something going on there. I think that like when I think of spirituality, when I think of just being spiritual, I just automatically think of Tibet. Don't know why. That's one of those like Michelle in Montana. It's like, yep, there's this. So maybe I was in Tibet once. I don't know. Maybe I had a lifetime there. But no, Dalai Lama is a really, really interesting story of reincarnation and how it works when you're in a culture that believes in it as just it's not something that it's like, okay, in North America here, you have so many different factions of the same religion, right? We have Catholics and Protestants, and among the Protestants, we've got 37 different classifications. We have the Anglicans, we have all this other stuff. So you have to convince everybody that your slightly different version is correct. And when you get over into a country like Tibet, except for a few minor differences, their fundamental beliefs are identical, and they are very peaceful about it. So they are on the same page for a lot of stuff. And I think that's a really fascinating study right there to look into the Dalai Lama. And maybe it might be an interesting study in terms of like, well, how does the Dalai Lama integrate his past lives? Like maybe there's a practice, maybe there's a thing, right? I don't know. That'd be something for us to maybe look at one day, but I don't know if there's enough there for us to talk for a couple of hours. But then again, we have to have a chat one day where we're just like, let's jump down a bunch of little rabbit holes and make a day of it and see how that goes. But for now, I probably should get going. Lisa's going to be heading home from work soon. Look at my dog. She's just, let me see. Can't really see her because she's just so fuzzy over here. There she is. She just had a 2-hour nap. While we chatted away. She goes through phases. Like she doesn't necessarily like being on the camera, but she goes through phases where she just has to be touching me all the time. And then she goes through phases where it's like, just leave me the hell alone. I'm sleeping over there and don't wake me up until I gotta poop. But anyway, I'm going to get going. I've got a couple things to do before the wife gets home. And yeah, I'm sorry. I should have thought of the Dalai Lama up front, but that's okay. There's not really a lot that's translatable about that, because that is a completely different, it's got nothing to do with the religious belief of reincarnation, but it's so, I guess, foreign to us. I mean, it's definitely like the idea that you could be just some kid minding your own business, and because you do this thing and that it's even possible, that's very like so far outside of what the rest of the world experiences, and I think it would be like really really difficult for us to understand it. I'm fascinated by this shit, and I'm just like, the Dalai Lama, it took me 2.5 hours to think of him. So it's like, yeah, that's a hard one to wrap. It's hard to wrap your brain around somebody who's lived their entire life. Oh, I am the 14th incarnation of all these other people, and because of that, I'm the leader of my people. And then because of that, like, maybe that is something that we should look into one day. But I'm not sure what the next topic in the community post is. There's only a couple of people, but yeah, for the next topic, let me know either in the comments below what you want to see as a next topic. Let me know what you thought of this topic, or wander on over to the community post and let me know there. But in the meantime, I'm going to get going. You guys have a great day. I'll figure out what the next topic is and then get a thing up for you soon. And in the meantime, I will see you. Well, I've got another FAFO project coming up. I've got another. No problem, Kaz. I've got another FAFO project coming up, but I don't know when that's going to be, because I'm actually finally playing catch up with some of the other stuff. I put some standard pocket pouches in for the first time in about 3 months. So we've got that going on, but I've got a FAFO either next week or the week after. I'm going to be doing a tarot pillow. We'll see how that ends up looking. Talk with Lisa what the next topic might be like. Oh yeah, I always check with her. But anyway, I'm going to get going. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.